everyone, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Ali.
I'm Sarah.
And we are joined with a very special guest from the WOSO crew. Please welcome Tim.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Always. We're always happy to have you, Tim. As long as you always agree with me and never agree with Ali, you're welcome. Just
Well, no promises, no promises. Usually we agree, but not always.
Yeah, not always, not always.
Yeah, Sarah's getting in early. I am wearing a very special shirt because we are talking about a very special group in the World Cup. We are talking about Group E, which is the USA, Vietnam, Netherlands, and Portugal. As always, this is in collaboration with Find Her Football for all of your footballing needs.
I am so excited for this group. And not for the reasons everybody thinks, and this might be just a perfect segue into our first team. Of course, I'm excited to talk about the USA, but I'm actually, I think, most excited for this group because of this little Netherlands-Portugal renewal of the Euros group rivalry that we've got going on.
Never mind that, the rivalry that is building between the Netherlands and the USA.
Yeah.
I used to think Sweden was the USA's, European nemesis, but the Netherlands are kicking that up.
Let's do it.
So let's do it. Let's talk about the girls in orange. Let's start off with the Netherlands in Group E. Well, I'm going to hit over to our guest first. Tim, are we excited for the girls in orange?
Yes, I mean, we're always excited for the girls in orange.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really interesting team right now. There's just a lot happening with the player pool in general. The coaching changed recently. You had Mark Parsons leave, go back to the States. Now you have a new coach coming in. The players seem to be reacting much better to this coach. They just seem to click better. They seem to respect the ideas that are being put forward. So that's a great sign. However, we can't not talk about the injury to Vivianne Miedema. This is a player who is, likely not going to be there, right? This is pretty confirmed at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is, without a doubt, the best player on your roster who is not there. And when you're a team like the Netherlands, who is known for having a really good starting 11, maybe a really good first 13, 14 players, and then after that, there's a big drop-off, losing your best player is a big, big hit for this team. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they can respond to that adversity. I do think we need big tournaments from some of their key strikers like Lieke Martens. I'm interested to see if a player like Shanice van de Sanden can get back into the mix. She was a standout for this team in their Euros run as well. So she has a lot of history with this team. She's fallen out of favor recently. And with the absence of Miedema, players like Lieke Martens, Lynette Berenstein need extra help up top to really fuel that fire and get them over the line.
You know what? I was actually thinking about this in the lead up to our recording because obviously, one of the biggest headline has to be Vivianne Miedema. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I actually don't think it's as huge of a loss that everybody thinks it is. And not because she's not an incredible player, not because she is the best player on this team, but because they actually haven't had her for a while. Like, you look at the Euros, and she was out with COVID for almost every game except for one. She was out for 2 out of 3 of the group stage. She missed their quarterfinal versus France when they lost and got knocked out. They were playing without her, and they scored 8 goals in 3 games in the group stages. She wasn't on the score sheet once. Like, they have been playing without her for long enough. Obviously, there were some friendlies in between Euros and when she got hurt, but she got hurt quite a while ago now, and they've had some friendlies without her since then. So I actually think it's not that big of a blow because they're getting used to not having her there. They've already developed their cadence, their style of play without her. I completely agree that Lieke Martens, Berenstein really need to step up. I think Jill Roord and Van de Donk both had incredible Euros, and they were part of the reason that that the Netherlands were able to score 8 goals. They need to be huge. We saw what Roord could do for Wolfsburg in the Champions League when she has a good game, and she needs to do that for the Netherlands. And if she does, I think that we're all going to be sitting there like, yeah, they don't miss her. I mean, look, I don't mean that in a bad way. she's going to add an incredible element to anything, but it's not the blow that, to foreshadow here, a Mel Swanson is for the U.S. because that came so late.
Yeah, I think you make a lot of really good points. They have so much strength up top with their starting kind of front five, let's say, But the question for me about the Netherlands has always been, yeah, they can put away the goals, but defensively they tend to be a little bit leaky. And I
Totally.
think
Yeah.
finding the players that can shore up that back line is going to be really, really crucial if they want to advance and make a serious run through this tournament. We saw a young goalkeeper in Daphne Van Domselaar really stand on her head out of nowhere in the Euros. And if she can repeat a performance like that, I think that will do wonders for this team.
You're absolutely right. So look at their Euros run. They had a draw with Sweden. They beat Portugal 3-2, which they were 2-0 up, and then Portugal pulled it back. And it was a Van der Donk absolutely worldy that managed to secure it for them.
That was a worldie. I rewatched it and I was still screaming. Such a great goal.
4-1 versus Switzerland, and then eventually losing to France 1-0. There are no shutouts for the Netherlands in that Europe.
Exactly. I think you both nailed it. I think that's the big question, and we need to talk about their defense. Van der Graat, their center back, I think that controlling the back line certainly hinges on her. But I guess my question is, who has to come up big in their back line? Obviously, it's their entire back line, but who has to really take control here for them to progress?
I think it's just been always so interesting to see who they're trying to pair together. They
Yeah.
really just need to find the right combination. You mentioned Stephanie van der Gracht. She's a veteran of this team, plays in Italy right now for her club ball. She's been around the team for a long time, but I don't know if she's necessarily the best option for a starting center back pairing. Obviously, Dominique Jensen is, for me, their best defensive player. She plays for Wolfsburg, can play center back or outside back. They traditionally play her all over the place. And I really think that you need to play her at center back, establish a strong presence in the heart of your defense, and then find the player who can play next to her really, really well, and find that player quickly because we don't
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of time. And if that's a Vandergracht, perhaps it also might be an Aniek Nouwen. She's a Chelsea player who's currently also on loan in Italy, having a decent season with, I believe, AC Milan. But this is a player who is also very young, so kind of the opposite of Vandergracht, right? Has potential, isn't maybe quite there yet. So, but I think between those two players, they need to find out which one is going to pair best with Janssen, and then now we can move outward and fill in our outside backs. A very interesting player is Kirsten Kasperij. I am probably saying that name horribly wrong, but a young player signed with Man City this past offseason for the WSL and has been pretty good. I mean, not the best outside back in the WSL by any means, but for a really young player that we didn't know a ton about before this WSL season, she's been pretty serviceable. So I'm interested to see what she can do.
Just to give everybody a picture of really what we're talking about with this defense, because, 1-0 scoreline to France going out in the quarters really doesn't sound all that bad. France had 33 shots on goal that game. 33. And 13 on target. That's pretty wild. So, I mean, hats off to goalkeepers everywhere, because that is not a scoreline that I would have guessed in 33 shots. I will say the Netherlands have recorded some shutouts of recent, but not against top teams, but still against formidable opponents. They won 2-0 versus Denmark. They won 4-0 versus Costa Rica. They beat Iceland 1-0. So they've shut out some teams recently. So they are on the right track. This is, I would agree, their biggest question. And if they can lock this down, we might see the Netherlands in the final.
Ooh, that's a brave statement.
Wow. This might be one of the situations, Sarah, where we do not agree.
Really? Look,
Netherlands in the final of the World Cup?
The Netherlands are a team that, if they're firing on all cylinders, I think always have the opportunity to reach the final. They have that much talent. It's just a matter of how they're playing. It's it's hard to look at this team and say anything else. How can a team of this caliber not have the potential to reach the final? It really does all hinge on their back line. We know that they can score goals. It hinges on their back line. We haven't talked about their midfield, and I think we don't have to spend that much time. They're just solid. They're just so solid. Spitza, Palova, they're just a blast to watch. I'll include Jill Roord because she can slide into the midfield position there. I think that they're one of the most underrated midfields in the international game.
This is true. I really do like their midfield, and you mentioned some really good midfield depth. Also, Damaris Agarola committed to Netherlands a few years back, plays for Lyon currently. She's a great option more defensively. And I think that outside the midfield, though, I am very concerned about their depth. I mentioned before,
Yeah.
they have a really solid starting 11, maybe 13, 14 players. But this is a long tournament. And if you sustain some mid-tournament injuries, you get players that have to miss games due to yellow card accumulation. That's very, very common in this tournament, especially with the inclusion of VAR. There's going to be a lot more plays. I mean, we had this last World Cup too, but there's more. It's the reality. There's more plays that are reviewed, and it happens. It's unfortunate, but it does. And I think the lack of defensive depth for this team is really a concern for me.
I really think that I totally agree with that. That's why I'm saying it's kind of, they can get there, but a lot of things hang in the balance. And the thing about this team is that they can be great, but they're also very beatable. As we've seen from their score lines, other teams can hang around them. And you know what? That is partly the Netherlands letting in goals, and that partly is the gap is closing, or the gap has closed. And that's it. They're still the Netherlands. They're still ones to be feared, and they can do the most damage of any team on any given day if they want to, but they're beatable because this gap has closed.
So let's keep on the Euro track with the second team in this group, which is Portugal. Now, me and Sarah loved Portugal during the Euros because they were an insanely feisty team that went in there with no expectations and were like, we can beat anybody. They didn't, but they still came away with some insane results. So just a quick reminder of their Euros thing. It was 2-2 versus Switzerland, 3-2 versus Netherlands. As I mentioned before, they came back from 2-0 down to get those two goals, and then 5-0 loss versus Sweden. So what are we feeling about Portugal? Have they improved since the Euros, do we think?
I'm so excited about Portugal. I mean, Portugal was the team that qualified because Russia was no longer allowed into the Euros, and nobody expected anything from them. And that was not a fluke. The Euros were not a fluke. They are a team that is this good. You mentioned that we absolutely love them, Allie. We love them because this is a team that goes into every game thinking that they can win. They play like they're going to win, and they are not intimidated by any team. So the fact that the Netherlands and the USA are in their group, frankly, I don't think it matters one bit to them, and that's exciting. I don't think, to your question, have they improved since the Euros? I don't think they've improved, but I certainly think that they've remained as consistent as they were in the Euros. They're still at the level they were. They were able to add some games and play some friendlies and get more familiar with each other. Not much improvement has been made, but frankly, that doesn't matter because what we saw from them in the Euros was that they can beat anybody if they want to.
Yeah, I think the thing that really stands out for me about this team in general, and you were kind of alluding to this, Sarah, is the cohesion. This is a team, they're so cohesive in their mentality, but they're also so cohesive on the field. This is a team of players who either currently play for like 2 or 3 clubs, mostly in the Portuguese league, or a few of the players play for Spain, but they went through those Portuguese clubs. They're players that are all very familiar with how each other play, and it shows on the field. They play as such a cohesive unit, and you mentioned that cohesive mindset as well. And I think that's going to carry them really, really far. I mean, not really far throughout the tournament, but they're going to do more damage than people think. And I think we'll kind of get to this in a second as well.
Let's just talk about it. Like screw the predictions at the end. I feel like this is the moment to talk about it because, I said they can beat any team on any given day. You have to look at their Euros, and they didn't take a win away, right? They took a tie and 2 losses. But that begs the question of, are they a team that's going to threaten, and the Netherlands and the USA are going to look at them and say, hey, we can't underestimate them, but ultimately, the Netherlands and the US will take that win? Or is this a team that actually could beat one of those? And I really err on the side of, especially with what we were just saying about the Netherlands and the question marks in the USA, which we'll come on to, they can beat one of these teams. What do you think?
Yeah, I really agree that they can beat one of these teams, right? I mean, I think they will definitely beat Vietnam for sure. That's no question in my mind whatsoever. But I do think that they will, at the very least, take points off of either the US or the Netherlands. That is, in my mind, will happen. They will take points off one
Yeah,
of these two teams. They just
they're a
have these.
disruptor team.
Exactly. Yeah. They really just don't care.
They're almost more than a disruptor team, though. Like, they could take points off of both the Netherlands and the US, and anything can happen. I
Yeah.
mean, this first game of this group is Netherlands versus Portugal. It is full on back to Euros rematch.
And that actually kind of disappoints me. I really wish that that game was the last game of the group. I think that would be so fun to have the closing game be the Netherlands versus Portugal, because I think the Portugal would be in a really good spot. And if they beat the Netherlands, if it was the last game, then they could snag an advancement into the knockout rounds. And I think that would be so fun. But because it's the first game, I think Netherlands is going to come out fresh, ready, wanting to prove a point, and I think they're going to do some damage as well.
I still think you're going to get your like last game tells the story, because the US plays Portugal in the third game of this group stage, and we're talking about it in the same way, right? Where this Portugal team can take points off of either of them. The US could be playing to go through in that game, knowing that most likely the Netherlands will take 3 points from Vietnam.
Yeah.
We can't move on without talking about some of these players. Like, we've
I
talked
was
about
going to
how
say, who are we
exciting.
watching out for?
Oh, okay.
Who are we watching out for?
So I guess for me, I mean, one of my favorite players on this team, also because of familiarity, she played in Kansas City, is Jessica Silva. This is like a forward winger type player who's just so creative on the ball, so creative in her movement, so technical. The things she tries, the audacity is just dripping all over the place, and I love it. It's so fun to watch, so dynamic, so exciting. I mean, and that's the player that I am by far the most familiar with, just because, like I said, a lot of these players play domestically in the Portuguese league. There's very minimal visibility for them. So for me, that's my standout. How about you, Sarah?
Absolutely, Deanna Silva. She was a standout in the Euros.
Yep.
She is just a star on that wing forward position. And she knows how to put herself in those goal scoring opportunities. She's got that quality that forwards have, where they just know where to be. And she's so exciting to watch for that reason. I want to call out Carol Costa,
I
who
was going to say Carol Costa is amazing, plays for Benfica, defender extraordinaire.
who also has this incredible attacking element to her game, even though she can play in the center back. Another super fun one to watch, and she'll be a threat on set pieces as well. And then finally, Anna Borges, she's a veteran of the team, a leader emotionally and mentally, and also a really fun one to watch.
Moving away from Europe now, our third team are an unknown team, because this is their first time qualifying for the World Cup. We love to see it. We love to bring some fresh blood in. And this is Vietnam. So they got there by beating Chinese Taipei in the AFC Asia Cup playoff games 2-1. They did go behind, but then they pulled it back. So let's talk about Vietnam.
Yeah, for me, this is the team that is maybe the Thailand of the 2019 World Cup, dare I say it? I mean, like you said, Ali, it's so cool that this team is even here, right? This is a team of players that no one has heard of. Almost all of them play domestically in Vietnam. And just being here is really, really cool. And how they got here is really cool, right? You're in the Women's Asian Cup, you are in the knockout rounds, they lose in the quarterfinal. They have to go to, like you said, this playoff where it's a round robin, and they have to play their hearts out to win this round robin tournament to get that last spot into the World Cup. And I think that does say a lot. They had the adversity, they got knocked out. They were like, you know what, we're not going to hang our heads. We're going to fight and we're going to try to do everything we can to get back in here. And I think that it does make for a really cool story. This is a really fun team to have even made it this far. I think that it's a really, really cool experience for these players. I really hope that maybe there are some standouts who maybe get some looks in other leagues around the world. Maybe not a league like the WSL or NWSL, but maybe I know like the Scottish Premier League is up and coming, a league like that, or maybe the Australian, the A-League women. Some of these leagues are looking for players and they're not maybe the same caliber as your top leagues in the world, but it's a place to start. And I hope that this is a great platform for these players to get some additional visibility.
I totally agree, and I guess along those lines, I'm gonna butcher her name, but just to highlight a player, she was the first ever Vietnamese player to play for a pro club in Europe, and she actually played in Portugal, so she might be pretty familiar with some of these Portuguese stars. She's a forward. She's 31 years old. She brings that veteran presence. Hoyen Nhu, Nhu, if you want to Google it, everybody. She's absolutely one to watch in this Vietnamese squad, and I mean, speaking of players to watch. This is a squad that admittedly we don't know a lot of the players or many at all. And that's part of the fun of this World Cup is I'm excited to see who stands out here. I think that they're going to have some really young, fast, attacking talent that's going to be a fun show to put on. And I'm excited to see that.
Do we think that they're going to be at a disadvantage for not playing teams outside of like the Asia Cup? Like you see Japan who will play in the Asia Cup, but then they'll also come out and play in England friendly. They'll play in the USA. We're not seeing that we spoke about it with the Philippines. We're not seeing that with Vietnam. Do we think that's going to be to their detriment for not playing against teams outside of their circle as such?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's always a detriment.
I mean, they're a team that, like you mentioned, Ali, they're playing teams that are maybe more similar to them, not only in terms of where they are in terms of the development of their national team program, but also stylistically they're playing teams that are more similar to them, and I think they're going to come up against some of these monster teams and they're really going to struggle. And I mean, it's not going to be pretty, but it's the World Cup, and every team is going to try their hardest to do their best, and it is what it is, but we'll see what happens.
If given the opportunity, not if given the opportunity, let me rephrase that. If, I don't know how to say this delicately.
Just do it.
If a team like the Netherlands or the US or even Portugal, will throw it in there, finds himself running up the scoreline against Vietnam, and we're in a Thailand situation again, which caused media hysteria. How do you both feel? We're going to bring that back from 2019. How do you both feel about the running up of the scoreline? Should these teams score as much as they can against Vietnam? Are we going to see another scoreline? 12, 13, nothing. A, is that possible? And B, if it is, should that be something that happens?
I'm going to say yes. I mean, it doesn't maybe feel very good, I guess. And I get that. But the reality is that goal differential matters. Scoring goals in your group matters. And it's not like these teams are leaving their starting 11 on there the whole game. They're making substitutions. They're letting their bench players come on and getting some goals as well. It's not like you have Alex Morgan staying on and scoring in the 90th minute necessarily. But how do you tell these teams to back off when the goals really do matter? You can't. This is the highest level, the greatest stage in the world, and asking a player to be a lesser version of themselves is just not acceptable in my mind.
Amen.
I think it's more than that. I think it's more than that.
I do too.
I mean, I'm going to take it for like a domestic side, but I used to get really offended when a team would play their second goalkeeper against West Ham. I think it's offensive, and I think it's offensive if we don't give absolutely everything against any opponent that we're playing, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't matter that it's USA versus Vietnam. USA need to go out and play as if they are playing the Netherlands, are playing the England, whoever. no matter their opponent, because I think it's more offensive to back off and only score by, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals when you could have had more. It's more offensive to your opponent, I think.
Amen to both of those. I remember when this story kind of became big in 2019, and I was so pissed for both of those exact reasons. The reason of, this is the World Cup, these are world-class players. You can't expect them to go to this tournament to hit their max competitive level and then tell them to back off. That's absurd. And this is the World Cup. That should never happen anyways. And then to your point, Allie, I mean, even as a player, I've been on both sides of it. And having been on the Thailand side as well, I'll call it, the only thing that took the wind out of my sails in those games was when the other team stopped playing. If they're competing with me, I don't care how many goals they're scoring. But the moment they stop competing, that's offensive. I completely agree.
You both managed to qualify for the World Cup. You're
Right.
both in a standing of a specific type, so it is offensive to think of these lesser teams.
Yep.
Like, you should go full force. Okay, that's a great position. We're going to stop because we're going to talk about it. It's the reason you're all listening, let's be honest. You want to hear about it. There is another team that happens to be in Group E. I'm trying to think.
Got 4
Wait, is there?
stars on our shirt. We got
There's
4
another team in this
stars
group?
on our
Yeah,
shirt. We got
I'm trying to
4
think, who are
stars
they?
on our shirt.
Of course it is the USA. I was so excited that you guys got drawn in the Netherlands group.
I'm sure you were.
Because I'm like, I love it. I love this budding rivalry. So let's talk about the USA. As two Americans, what are we feeling? I'm going to start with Tim because I know what Sarah thinks.
No, you don't, actually. I don't think you do, because I don't know what I think.
Yeah, I think this is a team that has been going through a very lengthy transitioning period, let's call it, really since Vlatko got hired. And I personally do not feel that it's gone as smoothly or as ideally as he had hoped, nor the entire fan base would have hoped.
That's very kind of you to put that as an opinion.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you realizing that and acknowledging that. But I think that this is a team that can do it. They can do the thing. They're the opposite of the Netherlands in my mind. They have the depth. And even this year, they do have the depth. We were talking on a separate preview special, Sarah, about how we were struggling to find the right group of players for this team because there's a lot of options of players who can go to this tournament. And we still don't have the roster, nor were we expecting to have the roster at this point. But this is a team that I think, even without Mel Swanson, has the pieces to do it. They can do the thing. And it hinges on so many different variables.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest question mark at this point, I think, is actually the midfield.
Yeah.
I there are questions on all the lines, all 4 lines, including goalkeeper, really. But I think for me, getting the midfield right is going to be so crucial to how well the US performs in this tournament. And spoiler alert, I don't think we're going to get it right.
Yeah, that's my fear. I kind of am sitting here like, I think I'd have a lot more interesting things to say about how I think the U.S. is going to do once I see this roster, because it really does hinge on who Vlatko decides to bring. And you make a really good point, Tim, about the midfield. It's funny how in 2019 that was, an embarrassment of riches. We had Julie Ertz, Sam Mewis, Rose Lavelle, Lindsay Horan. It's like, well, who's going to sit on the bench this game? And now it's the question mark. You're completely right. And it all hinges on who he brings and who he starts. And yes, there's questions around who can score, but there's plenty of forwards actually who can put away goals. It's about getting that formation right and getting people who can play together well. So to not get into the nitty-gritty specifics, because we actually don't know who's going, I'm going to assume Julie Ertz is going, because how could she not? I think her fitness level and her ability to play for a long time is going to be a big driving factor here. Obviously, I have a hard time separating my heart from my head in this. And I agree with you, Tim, that they have the ability to do it. They have the ability to do this again. They've done it twice in a row, though, and it's going to be that much harder the third time. It just is. They have a target on their back, even though we've seen them fall in recent years to other teams. Everybody wants to see this team fall more than they did in 2019, if you can even believe that. And that's going to make it harder. But you can never discount. I'm going to give myself chills because I love this team so goddamn much. You can never count out this team. We were worried about their mentality in the Olympics. That was a big piece. That was the heartbreaking piece. Forget about how they played on the field. The heartbreaking piece of the Olympics is that they didn't have that never say die, that we're the U.S. and we're going to come out and we're going to give it our all and we are going to win this game. They didn't have that fire in the Olympics that is just so synonymous with the U.S. national team. And I think that they've gotten that back. And that's what matters. You don't think they've gotten that back, Allie?
I don't think they've got it back at all. Based on performances I've seen recently, there is still that uncertainty in the way they play. And, there are teams they're playing that they have beat, but it's not a comfortable win. It's not a comfortable play to watch. And we've talked about it before, we said, is it that the other teams are coming up to the US level? No, I don't think it is. I generally think that there is this uncertainty, this unbalance in the US national team at the moment. Maybe bringing back Ertz, because we've said it before and we'll say it again, your number 6 issue was your biggest issue within the US national team. Maybe that will help, but is it too little too late?
Look, the reality of the situation is that if they have a bad World Cup, it is the fault of Vlatko Andonovski. Period, the end. Not the fault of any of these players. It is the fault of the coach whose job it was to rebuild this squad and bring them to the level that they needed to be by this time. And there is no other answer other than it hinges on Vlatko Andonovski's ability to motivate this team and select the right roster. And if he can do that, they will go far. And if not, he'll be out the door. And frankly, I think he'll be out the door no matter what. But that's not what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, for me too, what the US struggled with so much, aside from obviously the mentality in the Olympics, they looked like they were trying to play like a team that was not who they are. And that sounds really vague, but to put kind of more detail on it, they were trying to play more of a possession-based style. They were trying to play more of a European-esque style. And that's a great style for many teams. It's effective. It minimizes attacks against you. And I get that, like, it's a very valuable, very successful style, but it's just not who they are. You can't play don't try to be somebody else. Be who you are. Like, lean into it. I think that having young attackers like a Sophia Smith, a Trini Rodman, an Ashley Sanchez come on this field and just try some crazy stuff. Just try it. See what happens. And we've seen them do it time and time again at the club level. And I think if they can bridge that gap, if they can bring that audacity, that flair, that almost, I don't want to say carelessness, but they just, if you just don't, just try it. Don't be worried about what happens if you fail. If you don't try it, you'll never know what happens. And I think that if they can bring that energy and that mentality and that spirit to this tournament, that they will go really far.
Yeah, I totally hear that. I feel like maybe to almost connect what the both of you are saying, because I agree with both of you. Allie, you were talking about the U.S. just not being as cohesive as we've seen them be. And Tim, you're talking about how we haven't had those stars being able to shine. I feel like what's not right now, because I agree with you, Allie, something's different. There is a question mark that wasn't there at this time going into the World Cup in 2019. There just is. And it's because we haven't seen them reach that peak to look like they really know what they're doing. Everybody seems to still be a little bit struggling to play in the system, to be a little bit struggling figuring out, we haven't played all that much together because we're trying out so many different formations. We haven't been able to gel. And I think that they're maybe trying so hard to fit into this system that Vlatko has put them in that it's squandered and it's squashed some of this individual talent. And really what they just need to do is go play and let the talent shine. Because a Trinity Rodman, like you said, Tim, can do whatever she wants to do, and it'll happen. And she can do that on the world stage. To see a Sophia Smith do that, they can do that. They just need to let those individual stars shine in that way. But I do agree that that's the question. That's why we're not as convinced. It's because there is that element to it that feels a little bit shaky. But I think that they certainly can pull it together by the World Cup. And I think that mentality, that World Cup mentality, is going to just set in when they get there. And they're going to go in full like lockdown, beast mode. We're doing this. We know how to win a tournament. There's a difference we need to talk about. I'm sorry, I'm like monologuing here. This is the last thing I have to say for now. There's a difference between going to Spain and playing a one-off game, going to England and playing a one-off game, and a tournament. And the U.S., we saw how terrible they played in the Olympics. They didn't deserve to be in that third-place match. I think everybody can agree with that. They know how to be in a tournament. They know how to win games where they don't play well. The U.S. knows how to do that, and that cannot be underestimated in the World Cup. Ooh, I got chills again.
Oof. I think there are also some logistical advantages that the U.S. have kind of fallen into that I think are worth a mention. For me, one of them is where their group is playing and where their home base camp is. Their camp is in Auckland, New Zealand. 2 of their games are in Auckland, New Zealand, a stadium that they just played a friendly in against New Zealand. The 3rd game is in Wellington, New Zealand, which is a short flight away. So minimal travel. 2 of their 3 games are in the city where their base camp is for the entire group stage, in a place that they have played in both of these stadiums within the last calendar year. That's a huge advantage. Some of these teams are hauling it all the way across Australia and back again for their group stage games.
I was going to say, we haven't talked about that as much about how massive Australia is and how this is going to be impacting teams as a whole.
It's going to be tough. Yeah, absolutely. The US, it has this advantage. I will also say that the first place, looking at, I guess, how a theoretical group stage could shake out, granted that never happens the way that you think it will. But if you were to simulate and predict who will advance and who won't advance from all these groups, the first place team from this group happens into a potentially favorable path through the knockout rounds. They miss a lot of right? They potentially miss a lot of the heavy hitters. And that is going to be huge in terms of, we don't want to face an England in the first round of the knockouts. We don't want to face a home Australia side in the first round of the knockouts. These are teams that the US can beat, but England just beat the US and is arguably the best team in the world right now. And Australia is a home nation with a lot to prove and a lot of energy behind them. And they're going to come out here and play. And these are all teams that could find themselves on the other side of the knockout bracket. And getting all those teams to play each other before they play the US would be ideal.
So that leads us greatly on to predictions. We're going to talk about who is going to end up first, second, third, and fourth. So we know who you want based off of what Tim's just said.
I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
Actually going to happen. Shall I pick on Tim first, Sarah?
Yeah, please. Or you do yours first, Allie.
Yeah, because I don't have a horse in this race,
you do it.
So I will do mine. I think Netherlands first, USA second, Portugal third, Vietnam.
Do you think it'll be on goal difference, or do you think the Netherlands will beat the US?
I think you guys will tie.
Okay, so it'll be on goal difference. But
it'll be on goal difference because I think you guys will leak a couple of goals, whereas the Netherlands won't.
What? We literally just talked about how the Netherlands, their big question mark is the defense, and but weirdly ours is not.
Yeah, but in recent games, they've managed to keep these shutouts. I'm just saying, you guys defensively have made some stupid errors in, like, warm-up games.
I think that our back line is actually one of our stronger lines.
Says the person wearing the Becky Sauerbrunn
I know,
jersey.
right?
Yeah, she's the best bit, but you guys can't work out who to pair her with.
Let it be
and
known.
That's the problem.
Let it be known that Allie is sitting here in a USA jersey, and I've seen them twice in this jersey, and I have yet to see them in an England shirt. So just take that as you will, everybody, all the listeners.
Can I just say that's a lie? Because Sarah went to the Euros with me, and I was wearing an England shirt for both matches that we went to together.
That's
so
true.
That's a lie.
And to be fair, I was wearing England shorts.
Yeah.
I was a full convert until you all decided that you were the best team in the world, and I was like, screw you guys.
Right. Timothy, who are we going for?
So,
real quick, though, obviously they're going to pair her with Naomi Girma. Like, we know that.
Yeah.
We know who the back line is.
Yeah. Who is just, and she's a star. Like, she's really so good. Recoveries, positioning, on the ball. Like, she's the real deal, the whole package.
She's so composed. Like, I'm so excited to see her on a world stage because I feel like she's that player that's just going to even level up when that pressure hits.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Could not be more exciting. But predictions. I have to put the U.S. as number one. If I don't do that, I will not sleep tonight. I will not sleep tomorrow night. And and I feel like these predictions stink because I don't want to put any bad energy out there. But if the U.S. don't come into this group and win all 3 games, yes, beat the Netherlands, it is a complete and utter failure, a complete disappointment. If they do not come out of this group with 9 points for me, that's a disappointment. This team
in this group,
I know what I'm saying. You know,
I know you do. I'm surprised. I love the confidence. Don't get me wrong.
This team right now, how these players are playing, not necessarily for their national team, but on the club stage, how they are playing right now. If they do not get 9 points for me, that is a failure. This team has the potential. Lynn Williams right now can't stop scoring. You know, Sophia Smith can't stop scoring. Trinity Rodman is having arguably an MVP season right now for the Spirit. These are players that are just on fire right now, even without Mel Swanson. And anything but a clean 9 points for me is unacceptable for this team. I know the Netherlands are good, and it's a game that's going to be so fun. And I think if you had to circle 3 to 4 group stage games from all the groups, and you asked a random bystander, that USA-Netherlands game would be circled on everybody's calendar. But for me, the US has to take it. And I think that Netherlands do come in second. It's a bit of a cop-out answer because I would love to see Portugal make a surprise push, and maybe there's something weird where Portugal draws the Netherlands, but then also draws the US, but then the US beats the Netherlands, so you could get some sort of weird action where all of a sudden Portugal sneaks into second. But I think Netherlands, like you said, just has the front 5, front 6 that are really going to put away a lot of goals. They have the young goalkeeper, and they're gonna have a good tournament, fall into second place, advance through, and do some damage in the knockout stages. Portugal 3rd, Vietnam 4th.
I absolutely love your confidence. I feel like we're all falling into the thing of like, we're going to pick our number 1 and then we want to put Portugal second, but we just can't quite do that yet. And I'm going to do the same thing where it's just not quite going to be there for Portugal. And if they were in another group, I think that they could find their way through.
That's the thing for me. If they had a US and then another team and Vietnam, they would go through. If they had the Netherlands, another team, and Vietnam, they would go through. It's just the fact that the US-Netherlands combo.
I totally agree. So I think Portugal will go 3rd. I think Vietnam will go 4th. And alike to Tim, I can't sit with myself as a true U.S. Women's National Team fan if I don't put the USA going first. So I think U.S. go first, Netherlands go second. I would be okay with a tie between the U.S. and the Netherlands and us advancing on goal differential. That's okay with me. I don't want it, but that's actually okay. I don't consider that as big of a failure as Tim does, but I do consider it a failure if we don't get to at least the semifinals. And quite frankly, that might even be a question mark. Like, if the U.S. don't make it all the way through and at least get to play in a consolation or a final, it's a failure of a World Cup. That's it. And I don't agree with the people necessarily who say, if we don't win this World Cup, the U.S. has completely failed as an organization. Look, I think that we got spoiled in our winning in the past 8 years. We won in 2015, we won in 2019, and we have to remember that we haven't won all of the World Cups in the history of the World Cup because that's close to impossible to do. And there have always been other teams that are either better than us or match us and can compete with us. And this is going to be one of those years. And I can see it happening, that this isn't the year that we win because 3 in a row is hard. And because that's just not the reality of soccer, that you win all of the time. So that won't be a failure to me. Anything but number 1 is not a failure. I think not playing in a consolation or a final, that's the failure. But for me, to wrap this up nicely, USA, Netherlands, Portugal, Vietnam, put it on a bow, tie it, and then the Netherlands will have to face somebody real tough. That's the thing, like you were saying, Tim. The second place team here is going to have some tough work to do to keep going.
And that's a brilliant way to end it right there. So that is our wrap up of Group E. Please keep checking out our Patreon. We're going to put all 8 groups up there. They will then drop a week later on Spotify or wherever you get podcasts. This is in collaboration with Find Her Football. Please check them out. They will have all of your footballing needs, including where to watch these wonderful World Cup games when they kick off. But as ever, I've been Ali.
I've been Sarah.
And thank you very much, Tim.
Anytime.
Thanks, everybody.